A family of 3 is driving toward their new home. Inside the car is a mother named Pauline, along with her 2 teenage daughters, Beth and Vera. Beth quietly reads a story she has written, while Pauline listens as she drives. She praises Beth's work, calling it the scariest and most impressive story she has written so far. Vera, however, is clearly uncomfortable with her sister's obsession with horror and finds it unsettling. Suddenly, the loud siren of a candy truck blares as it pulls up beside them. A shadowy figure inside waves enthusiastically. Pauline and Beth wave back with smiles. Vera also waves, then abruptly makes an obscene gesture as the truck drives away into the distance. Not long after, Beth buys a sandwich at the convenience store and pays a busy store owner on the phone. The store owner compliments their vintage car, and Beth explains that they've moved into town because her Aunt Clarice recently passed away and left them a house. While browsing the shelves, Beth flips through several horror books and notices the same candy truck passing by outside. She then sees a newspaper headline reporting that an entire family was murdered. The article mentions that the killers targeted families but strangely spared the daughters. Beth tells Vera about the article. Then Pauline steps in, interrupts their conversation, and signals that it's time to leave. The family finally arrives at Aunt Clarice's house. Vera immediately expresses her dislike, calling it a zombie house. Inside, they're shocked to find the house filled with antique dolls. Vera wonders what their aunt was into. Meanwhile, Pauline locates the breaker, restoring power to the house. As they unpack in their rooms, Beth notices a strange mirror, dismissing it as a decorative puzzle box. Curious, Vera approaches her, and together they open a cabinet, only for a doll to suddenly pop out, frightening Vera and sending her storming out of the room. Later, while organizing her horror books, Beth notices blood on her hand and panics, calling out for her mother. Pauline realizes Beth has gotten her first period and gently reassures her that everything is fine. Vera, however, reacts coldly and shows no sympathy. That night, Pauline accompanies Vera outside after noticing her unease. Vera questions why Beth writes such terrifying stories when she's so easily frightened, insisting that Beth should be discouraged from dwelling on dark fantasies. Pauline brushes off her concerns, assuming Vera is just acting out. As Pauline walks back inside, Vera curses under her breath and flips her off from a distance. At that moment, a pair of headlights shines toward Vera. Unaware of it, she turns and goes back inside, leaving the door partially open. Through the doorway, the candy truck can be seen parked outside. Vera rejoins the family and orders Beth to go to her room. Soon after, they hear a faint creaking sound but choose to ignore it. Pauline heads downstairs to store some boxes when her phone rings. As she answers the call, a large man suddenly slams her into the wall and knocks her unconscious. The man wanders through the house, sniffing the dolls. The sisters spot him and try to run, but he catches them, dragging them by their hair as they scream. He pulls them down into the basement. The man lifts Beth, notices the blood on her, recoils in disgust, and lets her go. He then turns to Vera, clearly disturbed in a different way, pinning her against the wall. Beth watches in terror as her sister is dragged into another room. She tries to escape, but a strange woman attacks her and orders her to stay in the basement. Suddenly, Pauline reappears and lunges at the woman. The two struggle violently, and Beth is too frightened to intervene. During the fight, the woman stabs Pauline with a broken glass bottle. After a brief struggle, the noise stops. Beth sees the woman collapse, while a badly injured Pauline crawls toward her and urges Beth to run. Instead, Pauline heads into the basement to save Vera. Beth follows and watches as her mother fights the man. Pauline repeatedly stabs him until he finally stops moving. Beth then screams a warning as the woman returns. Pauline turns just in time and stabs the woman in the neck. 16 years later in Chicago, an adult Beth jolts awake from a nightmare and slips out of bed. Her husband quickly rushes over to comfort her. Later that day, Beth is seen typing on her typewriter. She has finally fulfilled her childhood dream of becoming a writer. Her husband interrupts to tell her that her latest book has become a success and that she has been invited to do an interview. Despite the attention, Beth shows little interest in fame or money, but her husband encourages her to go through with it. During the interview, the host promotes Beth's new book, titled Incident in a Ghostland. Beth explains that she wrote the story as a tribute to her family. The host begins questioning how truthful the book's disturbing scenes really are, subtly probing into Beth's past trauma. Beth brushes off the questions and laughs it away on camera. Back at home, Beth and her family watch the interview on television. Suddenly, the phone rings. Beth answers, only to hear Vera on the other end, frantic, terrified, and screaming. Before Beth can understand what's happening, the call abruptly cuts off. The next day, Beth packs her bags and heads back to visit her family, who are still living in Aunt Clarice's house. When she arrives, Pauline greets her warmly. Beth immediately asks about Vera, clearly shaken by the disturbing phone call. Pauline reassures her, insisting that nothing is wrong and that Vera is doing fine. That night, Beth comes downstairs in her pajamas while Pauline prepares dinner. Pauline talks about her plans to renovate the house, explaining that she has saved enough money by selling some of the antique dolls. Beth offers to help financially, but Pauline gently refuses, not wanting to burden her. Beth begins to tear up, feeling guilty for leaving her mother alone to care for Vera. Pauline understands and comforts her, reminding Beth that she needed to live her own life. The two share a quiet toast. Suddenly, a scream echoes from the basement. They rush downstairs, calling out for Vera. A closet door slowly opens, and Vera stumbles out, terrified and shaking. Pauline and Beth carry her back to her room. Seeing her sister in such a fragile state overwhelms Beth emotionally. Later that night, Pauline sits watching television and invites Beth to join her. As they talk, the conversation turns to Vera and how the night of the attack still replays endlessly in her mind. Pauline admits that there may be no way to free Vera from her trauma. All they can do is accept it, live with it, and try to understand her. The next day, Beth jolts awake from another nightmare. She turns off her alarm and freezes when she notices the words, "Help me," reflected in the mirror. Drawn by a sense of dread, she heads down to the basement, where she finds Vera clutching her doll. Vera shows Beth her bloodied hands and explains that a voice inside her head has been punishing her. She begs Beth to make the voices stop. As Beth hugs her, Vera suddenly hears footsteps. Believing the voices are coming for her, she panics and runs to hide. Moments later, the sound of a car horn echoes from outside. Beth steps outdoors and notices a vehicle driving past. In the backyard, she locks eyes with a stray dog before Pauline appears and shoos it away. That night, Pauline and Beth dance slowly to soft jazz music. Pauline has clearly had too much to drink and fondly reminisces about how young and innocent Beth once was. She gazes at her reflection in the mirror and sighs at the sight of her aging face. The conversation turns to Beth's latest book, which Pauline calls the best thing she has ever written. As the night goes on, Pauline eventually falls asleep while Beth remains awake. Once again, Beth notices the message, "Help me," in the mirror. She hears faint whimpering and suddenly sees Vera handcuffed to a bed. Alarmed, she rushes to uncuff Vera, but there is no key. She leaves the room to call her mother, and the door suddenly slams shut. Beth pounds on it as Vera screams in pain, until the screaming abruptly stops. Beth peers through the keyhole and is startled by a shadowy figure staring back at her. Terrified, Beth runs to Pauline, demanding the key to the room. Pauline wakes up and calmly tells her that the door doesn't have a key. Beth rushes back upstairs, where Vera suddenly emerges from the room. Vera appears to be struggling violently, as if fighting something only she can see. She injures herself and stumbles downstairs, collapsing on the floor. Pauline approaches and reveals that she understands why Vera has been acting this way. Before leaving to get help, she tells Beth to stay with her sister. When Beth goes back inside, she sees Vera heading toward the basement. The door behind Beth slams shut. Beth tries to talk to Vera through the door, but a voice suddenly whispers that it's Beth's turn to be broken, just like her sister. Along the hallway, Beth envisions the man from the past dragging Vera away. Beth feels relieved, realizing it was only her imagination. Hours later, Beth waits for her mother to return. She eventually falls asleep, only to be awakened by dogs barking outside. Hearing the front door open, Beth assumes Pauline has come back. Before she can confirm it, a mysterious figure attacks her from behind. Beth struggles and eventually wakes up, injured and disoriented. She staggers to the mirror and sees the bruises covering her body. Panicked, she calls out for her mother, but there is no response. Hysterical and crying, Beth makes her way down to the basement to find Vera. She confronts Vera, asking what she did to her. Vera insists that the voices were responsible for Beth's injuries. Beth lashes out, calling her sister unstable. Vera strikes Beth and screams at her to stop running from reality. Inside Beth's mind, she relives the night of the attack. Vera convinces her that their mother died that night. Beth breaks down, screaming and crying as she finally accepts the truth. As the realization settles in, Beth's imagined adult life collapses. She snaps back to reality and understands that her successful future was only a hallucination. In truth, Beth and Vera are still teenagers, still trapped inside their aunt's house, and still being held captive in the basement. The family Beth imagined never existed. And once again, reflected in the mirror, is the same haunting message. Help me! Later that night, Vera eats cheerfully, happy that her sister is finally back. Beth, however, remains silent and refuses to eat. She admits that she resents Vera, believing her sister ruined the life and future she dreamed of. Hurt by Beth's words, Vera has no defense and can only hug her. The next morning, Vera wakes Beth in a panic as she senses the woman approaching. She quickly hides Beth inside a cabinet and warns her not to move or make a sound if she's discovered. After kissing her sister goodbye, Vera shuts the door. Moments later, the basement door opens, and footsteps draw closer. The woman eventually finds Beth. Beth struggles, forcing the woman to knock her unconscious. Later, Beth wakes up dressed and styled like one of the dolls. The woman applies makeup to her, preparing her for the man. They enter a room filled with dolls, and Beth is seated among them as the woman leaves. Before the man enters, Beth discreetly pulls a sharp object from one of the dolls and hides it in her hair. The man limps into the room, moaning as he inspects the dolls arranged for him. He picks one up and begins handling it roughly, becoming enraged when it makes noise. He destroys it, then turns his attention to Beth. He lifts her by one leg and inhales her scent, causing Beth to scream. He strikes her and prepares to hurt her further, but a falling doll distracts him. Seizing the moment, Beth grips the hidden object and stabs him. Disoriented, the man collapses into a pile of dolls. Their voice boxes activate, mocking him, which sends him into a rage as he tears them apart. When he finally calms down, Beth quietly sneaks past him and escapes the room. She reaches a door and tries to open it, but the woman is on the other side. The man catches Beth and drags her back, forcing himself on her again. Beth manages to grab a typewriter and strikes him repeatedly, knocking him unconscious. Beth reaches the door once more but hesitates when she hears movement. A hammer suddenly crashes through from the other side as the woman begins breaking in. Beth throws the typewriter out the window. When the woman finally enters and looks outside, Beth is nowhere to be seen. She leaves to search the house. Beth is hiding inside a puzzled box. She notices the man beginning to wake up as a doll beside her starts laughing. Beth muffles it until the sound stops. Once it's quiet, she escapes and runs downstairs. Outside, she sees the woman searching. Beth opens the basement door and calls for Vera. The sisters attempt to escape, but the woman returns just before they reach the front door. She nearly spots them, but the man calls her away. The sisters seize the chance and flee into the woods. At dawn, they reach the road and spot a police car passing by and scream for help. The officers hear them, spot the sisters, and quickly reverse to approach. Vera warns them not to touch her, and the female officer gently reassures her that they are safe now. The officer reports the situation and runs back to escort the sisters, but the woman suddenly opens fire, shooting both officers. The sisters can only scream in horror. Inside the truck, Vera desperately bangs on the window while Beth appears completely defeated. As they are taken back to the house, Beth retreats into her fantasy world once again. In her hallucination, Beth attends a party where she sees her mother alive. They exchange kind words before separating. Beth sits alone until she notices her imagined family and waves to them. A man sits beside her, H.P. Lovecraft, her idol. He praises her latest book as a masterpiece, leaving Beth speechless. After their brief conversation, Beth suddenly spots Vera at the party, looking lost. She follows her upstairs and finds Vera trapped inside a room, pounding on the door and screaming for help. Pauline tries to stop Beth, but she refuses to abandon her sister. Beth chooses to face reality and runs toward the door. Back in reality, the man attacks Beth, choking her until she nearly loses consciousness. A doll's laughter distracts him. Enraged, he quickly approaches the doll, giving Beth a chance to break free. She rushes to Vera, slams the woman's head against the floor, and fights her desperately. The man charges at them but is shot from behind by a police officer. The woman rises but is also shot due to her threatening movements. The sisters cling to each other as they are finally rescued. They are taken away on stretchers, forever marked by what they endured. Beth tells Vera that she loves her. As Vera is placed into an ambulance, Beth sees the killer's bodies being loaded inside the car. Through the house window, Beth imagines her mother pointing toward her typewriter outside. Inside the ambulance, a paramedic tries to lighten the mood and asks Beth about her interests. Beth quietly replies that she likes to write stories, turning trauma into the only escape she has ever known. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps like this. Thank you for watching.